Hey, welcome into the Snap Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Mack, and you're here because you want to know who to pick up for Week 5 waivers. And with so much going on with COVID-19 and positive testing, as well as injuries, we're here to make sure that you have exactly what you need in order to make the right waiver moves this week to win your matchups. If you're new to the channel, please consider hitting that like button as well as subscribing if what you hear is worthy of a subscription. So I'm going to first kick things off by saying two pieces of information. That one, the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions are on bye this week. So no Aaron Rodgers, no Matthew Stafford, no Kenny G, no Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones. It goes down the list. Second thing, there have been 18 positive tests for the Tennessee Titans, and if there are any more that come out, there's a likelihood that Bills-Titans game for Week 5 does get postponed. So you might have to, if you're a Josh Allen owner or you have any other Bills, you might have to consider making alternative arrangements for next week, as well as Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, Jonnu Smith, Corey Davis, and so on and so forth. So there's lots of moving pieces, really good reasons to stay tuned to the channel this week. But I'm going to kick things off here first with the quarterbacks. If I have to stream a quarterback this week, or I lose Ryan Tannehill for another week, here are the quarterbacks that I'm going after. Number one, Justin Herbert. He goes up against New Orleans Saints, who have given up a decent amount to fantasy quarterbacks. He's only 16% rostered in Yahoo leagues. And what would I be willing to spend on Justin Herbert? Be somewhere in the range of 5 to 15%. Really depends on if you need him or not. I mean, if you lost Cam Newton, it might be a good spot start for a couple weeks. Cam's definitely going to be out for at least 2 weeks with his quarantine period. Herbert has been good, man. The arm talent, what we're seeing out of him is fantastic. It means really a lot of good things for some of the pass catching options, as he's not a stranger to throw that ball downfield. Keenan Allen definitely getting a boost with Justin Herbert behind center. A cool piece of information, Justin Herbert, all of his touchdowns last week were to undrafted wide receivers. Crazy. He's getting it done with some really, I wouldn't say untalented, but unnotable pieces. And in back-to-back weeks, almost comes out and knocks off Patrick Mahomes as well as Tom Brady. So the kid is making a mark for himself entering the league. Second, I would spend some money on Gardner Minshew. Goes up against the Houston Texans. Really great matchup. He is 46% owned, so there's a 50-50 chance that he'll be on your waiver wire or not. We'd be looking to spend anywhere from 5 to 7% fab on Gardner Minshew. The track record so far has been pretty good for him. James Robinson seems to be a nice piece for them, especially in the pass catching part of the game. And they've also got DJ Chark back, which you saw that wonderful, sideline or end zone catch where he planted both feet before going out of bounds. They definitely missed him last week, and to have him back, got into the end zone, got the target. So Gardner Minshew, really good pickup. And then Teddy Bridgewater is the third quarterback I would consider putting a little bit of fab on if you are quarterback needy as a streamer or replacing injury or COVID. Bridgewater goes up against Atlanta. We know how susceptible Atlanta is to giving up points. They are allowing 463 yards per game right now to opposing offenses, and Bridgewater and the well-equipped Carolina Panthers are chugging along. I mean, Mike Davis has been far better than I had give him credit for. The resume for him really hadn't been great, and that offensive line and the way they're using him is fantastic. Robbie Anderson has popped off. I mean, DJ Moore hasn't really even been going yet, but we're starting to see the Matt Rule, Joe Brady offense really clicking here for the Panthers, and Teddy has been great. Also getting a little bit done with his legs. I'd be willing to spend up to 10%. I do think he is potentially a rest of season start for you. Not an every week starter, but definitely in a streamable spot. Atlanta's a juicy matchup, only 19% owned. Go out and get yourself some Teddy Bridgewater for this week. Up to the running backs. Running backs, there's some really nice pieces this week, and the Austin Ekeler injury for the Los Angeles Chargers is one that hurts. Austin Ekeler has a hamstring injury and a partial knee injury, and he's going to be out for at least 6 weeks. They're planning for him to come back in the week 11 matchup after the week 10 bye. So Joshua Kelley skyrockets up boards. He is only 55% owned. So for some of you in 8 and 10 team leagues, he's definitely going to be available. 12-team leagues, maybe not so much. But if Josh Kelley is available, you need to spend potentially up to 50% of your fab. This guy's going to be able to carry you the rest of the fantasy season, right? Austin Ekeler coming back in week 11. That's only 3 weeks until your fantasy playoffs start. I would consider spending the bank on Josh Kelley and getting him as my RB2/3, maybe even a flex play. But I really do think that Josh Kelley is going to be the workhorse here. And coming in right behind him, Justin Jackson, who last year when we saw Melvin Gordon hold out, it was the Austin Ekeler and Justin Jackson show. And Justin Jackson was very productive as a complement to Austin Ekeler. Justin Jackson has been injured. He did get back on the field last week. And moving forward, it's going to be a heavy dose of Josh Kelley and Justin Jackson. So he's only 5% owned. So Justin Jackson is available almost everywhere. I think you can get him for about 15 to 20% fab, but you might want to spend up a little bit more because of the timeline being 6 weeks. Another one that I would like to put some money on is Chase Edmonds. They play the New York Jets this coming week, which is a really nice matchup, only 34% owned, and we've seen Kenyan Drake struggle. And it begs the question, is Kenyan Drake even healthy? Because last year we saw him come over to Arizona and really take over that role. David Johnson was injured. Chase Edmonds got injured as well after a huge game, I believe in week 8, if my memory serves me correct. But he had like 26 carries for 130 yards and a touchdown or two. It looked really, really great, and then went down to injury. And Kenyan Drake comes in and basically steals the show and was great for fantasy, and everyone projected him to be that this year, and that just hasn't been the case. He's really, really struggled to get going. And when you look back to training camp, Kenyan Drake was seen walking around in a walking boot. So there's maybe questions that, is he 100% healthy? Does he have a nagging injury that he's not able to play through? We saw Chase Edmonds get on the field last week, and I think Chase Edmonds is a special talent. I think he's quite good, and I think he gets on the field a little bit more. So as a stash play, a longer term play, I'd be willing to go out and get Chase Edmonds, only 34% owned, willing to spend anywhere from 15 to 20% on Chase Edmonds, because the running back position is an important one, a very special one. And depending on how many flex plays you can have on your league, I would consider getting Edmonds for sure. D'Ernest Johnson is a name that you don't hear much of, only 1% owned, but with Nick Chubb going down, he was placed on IR. It's going to be 6 weeks for him, much like Austin Ekeler. It's going to look like a week 11 return most likely. Crazy thing right now with the Cleveland Browns, and why I say D'Ernest Johnson might be a worthy pickup, and you might call me crazy, but I'm willing to spend some money on him. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb so far this season have been fantastic. And if we look at the most runs of 10-plus yards this season, Nick Chubb is your leader at 14. Been explosive. They've been really good on the ground. The Cleveland Browns actually lead the league in rushing productivity at 5.9 yards per carry. Number 2 in the league, Dalvin Cook at 12 runs of over 10 yards. And number 3, Kareem Hunt at 11. So the duo of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt have combined for 25 10-plus carries. So really, really nice big chunk production coming out of them. The crazy thing is D'Ernest Johnson comes into this game last week in week 4 against Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, sure. Dallas has been giving up fantasy points to everyone, but goes 13 carries for 95 yards. Actually out carries Kareem Hunt in this game, even though Hunt was a little bit more efficient in terms of his pass catching work. D'Ernest Johnson could be worth a pickup. And yes, I understand Dontrell Hilliard might be worked in too, but D'Ernest Johnson was given the carries and was quite productive with them. So I'm willing to put some money on him. And like we said, it could be a 5, 6, 7 week instance where this is a Kareem Hunt, D'Ernest Johnson backfield. and what we've seen so far, it's been a split. I'd be willing to spend up to 30% of my budget on D'Ernest Johnson. I know that sounds crazy, but when you need fillers at the running back position, you have to be willing to spend up. And I really wish I did spend up on Mike Davis. My co-host Landon was absolutely right on Mike Davis and knocked that one out of the park. Last one, Keyshawn Vaughn. If you are a longtime listener of this show, you know that Keyshawn Vaughn has been a point of contention for us. Scott was really big on him. Landon was really big on him. I, at one point, was quite big on him. And now that Leonard Fournette has been in and out of the lineup, he's only 6% owned. They're playing Chicago, which is a matchup. But I think you can go get Keyshawn Vaughn for 5-10% and really, really take a flyer on him. He's not an every week start as of right now, but him getting into the end zone last week kind of shows that there's something there. Tom Brady, I think, likes using this kid, and moving forward, he could be a stash play for just, see how he develops. So that's where I'd spend up at the running back position. Big hitters are Joshua Kelley, Chase Edmonds, and D'Ernest Johnson. I think Justin Jackson's worth some money too. At the wide receiver position, we've got an interesting list here. So number one is going to be T. Higgins. And yes, T. Higgins plays the Baltimore Ravens next week, which isn't a great matchup. Only 33% owned, but he is special. Coming out of Clemson, we all knew that this kid was going to be something good. He's got the body, big frame, 6'4". He likes to be targeted in the end zone. Joe Burrow likes this guy, and I'm kind of out on waiting for AJ Green. The targets have been there, but they just haven't connected. So I'm kind of out on AJ Green. I'm willing to sit him down and give T. Higgins a real shot. And for only 33% owned, I think you can get him for about 15 to 20%. This would be a rest of season flex play for me in a deeper league, like a 12 to 16 team league. At number two, I'm going to go N'Keal Harry. And next week they play Denver. I think that Harry will be called upon if Brian Hoyer continues to be the quarterback. We'll see what happens the rest of the week. But, whether it's Stidham or Brian Hoyer next week against Denver, I think he's utilized. Him and Julian Edelman should see the Rock, and Sony Michel was placed on IR. So that just lends to one more person going down, and someone needs to step up. It should be their number one overall draft pick from a year ago. Not number one overall, number one, like first round draft pick, N'Keal Harry. I think you can get him for about 10 to 15%. And moving down the list, Christian Kirk against the Jets. Christian Kirk got into the end zone. Finally, it's been a really rough start for him. Landon, this is more of his pick. Landon seems to think that this could be the start of something for Christian Kirk, maybe a bounce back performance. The Jets are super soft, giving up a ton to fantasy wide receivers. I think you can get them for under 10% of your budget. Could be a long-term stash. Mecole Hardman coming in at number 4 here, going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. The Kansas City Chiefs are a hard-hitting offense. They like to take shots downfield. They should be able to do so against the Raiders, and Mecole Hardman is a boom-bust play. He's not a floor play, but if you need something big to happen for your lineup, Mecole could be a nice piece for you moving forward. 39% owned. I think you can get him for about 5% of your budget. And lastly, I want to talk about Henry Huggs. So Henry Huggs is still injured. He's only 43% owned. He's a long-term stash for me, and I think this is a really good time to get him. They go up against KC next week. He might not play, but I think long-term, if you can afford to stash Henry Huggs on your bench, you're a winning team. Maybe you're 4-0 or 3-1, and you can afford to take a shot on him down the road. I think he's a really, really nice buy at this point. He'll be flying under the radar. 5% of your budget should get the job done because he's available in over half of the leagues. Lastly, at the tight end position, I think this is a good time to buy in on Dalton Schultz. We've seen the target volume. We've seen the red zone targets. He's only 52% owned. I would be willing to spend up to 15% of my budget to go out and get the Dallas Cowboys starting tight end in Dalton Schultz. We know how much Dak Prescott likes to target his tight end. And that is no different whether it's been Jason Witten or Blake Jarwin or now Dalton Schultz. He might be the real deal in Dallas. So 15% of my budget would be going to him if I was tight end needy. Secondly, I would be going to Mo Alie-Cox, Gigantor, the big talent in Indianapolis. T.Y. Hilton is running thin on my patience, and Mo Alie-Cox seems to be getting the red zone work. So I'm going to go to him. I think you can get him for about 5 to 8% of your budget. But he's definitely a nice piece, has the touchdown upside. Phil Rivers seems to like him inside the 20. And then lastly, Austin Hooper going up against the Colts. 53% owned, has the name value. He was the number one tight end last year from weeks 1 through 10 before he got injured. So different offense, I understand, but certainly has the talent. 53% owned. I think you get Austin Hooper after a decent performance for about 10% of your budget. I don't think he has tight end, top 10 tight end upside for the rest of the season. I think you're going to see him more in that 12 to 15% range. He's going to be touchdown dependent because the passing volume hasn't been there with Baker Mayfield so far. But I think for about 5 to 10% of your budget, you can get him as well. So that does it for me in our waivers this week. Hopefully you guys picked up a little bit something there. If you want to know, hey, who should I pick up between X and X, or what do you think about this player on my waivers? Hit us up, leave it in the comments below, and we'll get back to you ASAP. That is a point of we're very, very proud of on this show to get back to every single person that reaches out to us. You can get us on social media at snap_fantasy, and you can also get me under right here at mtout23 on Twitter, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Appreciate the support. A like goes a long way, and a subscription even further. Hopefully you guys have a great week, and we will see you on our Trade Target show later in the week. So see ya.